The Chaser Report is recorded on Gadigal land.
Striving for mediocrity in a world of excellence. This is the Chaser Report.
Hello and welcome to the Chaser Report with Dom, without Charles, and once again, live from Melbourne, it is Mr. Andrew Hansen at the microphone. Welcome back, Andrew.
Yes, bonjour. Bonjour, messieurs, dames. We are here in Melbourne thinking very, very hard about the Paris Olympics. You and I, Dommy, have been absolutely soaking in Olympic fever, haven't we?
Les Jeux Olympiques. Yes, that's the last time I'll try to speak French during this podcast. But no,
me too.
It is very, very fine, Andrew, to see the eyes of the world pointed at something other than Donald Trump. Although presumably at some point during the course of the games, Donald Trump will become the biggest story in them because of that's just what he tends to do. But we've done a lot of US politics on the podcast recently. We've been overdosing on it somewhat. So let's talk about sport. And I know that when it comes time to look at matters sporting, there are a few people I know who are more engaged with every moment of the Olympics than you. You have games fever, don't you? Even when the Olympics aren't on, you still have games fever.
I cannot get enough of the sports. Me, Dominic Knight. Yes, I'm into sport. I know all about the tickets to the sport and the balls and things like that.
Yes, indeed.
Look, it's not something I grew up with. Admittedly, my parents are very unsporty, and I've got the same mistake. I always see these guys out of the park, and they've always got a ball with them. There's something about dads. Do you see this, Tommy? Other dads, they will not leave the house without a ball in their hand.
That's right.
And it never occurs to me to leave the house with a ball in my hand. I mean, I might leave the house with maybe a book of short stories for my kids to enjoy, or I might leave the house perhaps with some wipe clean mathematical exercises for them.
Oh, very good.
But I never think of taking a bloody ball out to the park. I've never got one. And I curse myself because my kids are going to be as unco as me. This is what my dad did.
No, that's a real mistake, Andrew. I spent a lot of time playing football as a child. I lived in London for a few years, and you could not survive in that city, at least not if you were me, if you didn't play soccer. So I constantly, every day after school, played soccer, always kicking a ball around, and I still suck. It made absolutely no difference spending all those years attempting to be good at it. It was no good. But look, let's catch up on the news from Paris 2024 thus far after this. Magically, Andrew's audio is now better. Andrew, speak some French for us just to let's hear the local microphone you've got going.
Bonjour avec l'audio nouveau. And now, does that sounding a little bit new and fresh and better for you? Yes,
Very
because
impressive.
I'm now recording locally in my sexy Melbourne studio, which I set up especially for the Olympics, covering the Olympics live from Melbourne.
I'm so impressed that you've managed to put a black skivvy over the microphone too to improve the sound.
Well, that's Melburnian and Parisian.
So look, a few things have been different about Paris 2024. I'll just run you through a few of them because I know that you may not be entirely across all of the details. The first is...
I'm actually across none of them. I'm across none of them. I heard something from my mum that she didn't like Lady Gaga's performance.
Right.
And that's all I've heard. That's all I know.
So what happened? And look, I must confess, I've been overseas on a little trip to a warm weather. So I haven't been, I went up to Singapore for a week with my family. So haven't been paying all that much attention to the games either. But I do know a few things that have gone down. So if you want qualified commentary, go elsewhere. I think we can give unqualified commentary. So the first thing they did, Andrew, was to try and break from the past. They decided to have the opening ceremony in a completely new and different way, unlike every other one so far. And I know you've got a quiz coming up, but I'll ask you, what do you think? What do you think they did to try and make the opening ceremony different from every previous opening ceremony at an Olympics?
It made it short. Was it 2 minutes long?
Wouldn't that be the innovation everyone was looking forward to? No,
just a quick bonjour, and now on with the show.
Yeah, the games begin. Let's just light the torch very quickly, and
let the games begin.
What they did, Andrew, for the first time in Olympic history, I understand, is not only was the opening ceremony not held in the stadium, so the main Olympic stadium where the athletics takes place, and that's usually the focus. It's where the torch relay ends up. All that. No, they did it on the Seine, the mighty River Seine.
Yes, I've heard about this.
The boats.
Yes, I've heard about the Seine. Yes, the
boats
famously hygienic river.
Yes, indeed. They're basically the pissoir of Paris, as it's been known for so long. That's right. So they had all the boats going along on the Seine. And the Chase website reported that the Australian team refused to get on the French boats and instead changed it for an AUKUS nuclear-powered boat going down. But this was the big thing. And it was a little bit grey and rainy. There were some raincoats brought out, but I suppose that's a European summer for you, isn't it?
You know, Melbourne, I can see the opening ceremony very similarly happening on the Yarra, which is the pissoir of Melbourne. It's a filthy river, and I reckon we could chuck the athletes on some boats there.
Yes, and that's really the thing missing, I think, from the Seine in Paris, is there are so many beautiful historic buildings on either side. There's Notre Dame, the cathedral there. There isn't a casino. There isn't a giant casino spewing forth gas.
Good point. It's a bit of an oversight of Paris. I mean, they say that it's a fantastic city, but it doesn't have Crown Casino, does it?
It doesn't.
No,
very
you can't sit on the Seine and play the poker and play Queen of the Nile or Queen of the Seine.
That's right.
They could rename it.
Of any river. That's right. It'd be fair to say that the opening ceremony didn't go without problems, and it wasn't just the rain. It's not every Olympics, Andrew, that the organisers apologise for the opening ceremony. They said they were really, really sorry. There were a few mishaps. One of the major ones was the fact that when they introduced South Korea, they said, "Here is North Korea."
Well, at least there are no cultural differences that could be worried about there. I mean, they're really the same, aren't they? I mean, nobody would have noticed. I reckon South Koreans would very much identify with their neighbours, their lovely, friendly neighbours in the north, and I can't see that would be much of a problem.
Of course not. No, they're almost indistinguishable, the two countries, except for the slight matter of their political system. Now, this thing went for nearly 4 hours, Andrew, so make sure you catch up on it. But the biggest
was Christopher Nolan directing, was he? Good Lord.
Yes, it was the first pitch was for a 20-minute long story, but Christopher Nolan decided that the time should shift. In fact, it's very Nolan-esque. He loves playing with time. Tenet, did you see Tenet? The one which goes back sort of backwards and forwards at the same time, and then there's Incognito, whatever it's called, the one with Memento, where
Look,
the guy can't remember.
I've seen Memento, Tenet. My lifespan is not long enough to watch all of Christopher Nolan's movies.
No.
He's the only filmmaker whose movies add up to more than the duration of an average human lifetime when you watch them back to back. So I haven't been able to fit them all in.
So it's 4 hours long, I believe. But with the Nolan influence, I think actually as you're watching it, it's like in the movie Interstellar that Christopher Nolan did, another time one. They go to a planet where an hour of time passes, but you've actually lived for 40 years. I think anyone who watched it had that experience by the end. But have you heard of all the fuss over by the attempt to convey Dionysus, the Greek god of wine and pleasure? This didn't go down well at all.
Yeah, look, I did gather. I'd read a few cranky tweets of people trying to correct one another on their, which is, and it's ropey territory. People are trying to, correct their knowledge of art and history and without being armed with much knowledge. I mean, the average person can't tell the Last Supper apart from the Feast of Dionysius or whatever it's supposed to be. I can't. I don't know. And I'm a pretty nerdy guy.
You are.
I don't.
I mean, if they were separate Doctor Who episodes, you'd know the difference.
Oh, I'd be right across. In fact, did Doctor Who not feature in the Paris? It's a shame they left that.
Well,
out.
it's entirely possible that because we don't know the full story, he's a time traveller, of course, the Doctor. So it may well be that the actor dressed as Dionysus, wearing blue paint like a member of the Blue Man Group, he'd failed their audition and somehow placed in the middle of a plate of food. That may have been a future incarnation of the Doctor.
Well, I'd like to see a blue Doctor. He's wearing blue paint. I'm surprised people didn't mistake him for a Smurf.
That's
because
it's very Smurf-esque.
Sort of frail Belgian.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as close as South and North Korea, really, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So same difference.
And no, but people have been offended that it was supposed to look like they thought it was an attempt to insult the Last Supper. And I must say, from the sense that I get, Andrew, is that insulting the Last Supper would have been a far more interesting and kind of specific parody rather than a sort of 4-hour-long amateur theatre performance, which is what the opening ceremony otherwise looked like. They were trying to celebrate tolerance of different sexual and gender identities, it says here, and they wanted to do that by having a blue dude in the middle of a plate of food, which I must say, that's very sexy for me. That's what gets my motor started.
Preference. That is a sexual preference right there.
Absolutely. So they've apologised for that as well. And then the big reveal, the big surprise that brought a tear to everyone's eyes was the reveal of Celine Dion singing atop the Eiffel Tower. Now, we'd all heard that she had stiff person syndrome, which apparently is not just a made-up disease. It's not.
I know it does sound like an excuse.
It does,
really, doesn't it? More than an actual diagnosable disease. But yeah, stiff person. So I would describe it's nicely symbolic for her to be standing on top of the Eiffel Tower, then, which is a very stiff structure. I mean, I think that is a nice resonance there.
It is very much an erection in every sense. The Eiffel Tower. It's positively penile. But no, there she was singing away, and I must say, I thought we'd sort of been promised by the universe that we wouldn't get any more Celine Dion concerts.
I had kind of gathered she'd sort of sunk along with the Titanic, and we were all quite pleased about that, but apparently not.
Well, her heart goes
she's
on,
back,
and I thought her voice was stopping, but apparently her voice is going on too.
No, it's still, and I've heard good buzz. I mean, I heard people raving about Celine Dion. I think my mum was pleased with her, just not Lady Gaga.
Yeah. Well, there was another moment in the opening ceremony where they had a woman holding out a bloodied, severed head who was supposed to be Marie Antoinette, because it happened right outside the prison where Marie Antoinette was in prison. So I don't know whether it was Lady Gaga. I haven't heard if she survived the opening ceremony, actually.
That's quite grim, isn't it? You wouldn't do that if it was a recent politician who'd been beheaded, would you? And like if the beheading had happened 6 months ago, I feel that you wouldn't stand there recreating it.
No,
for everybody's amusement.
And you wouldn't have a sort of Donald Trump head during the sort of rifle salute, would you? That would be very distasteful. They wouldn't do that.
I think it would result in a few extra complaints on top of the Last Supper business.
The Chaser Report. News you can't trust.
But nevertheless, they did get people talking about the opening ceremony. I mean, full credit to them. These things are normally so boring and so easily ignored, and it seems as though almost everybody's found something to get offended by, whether it's just Celine Dion's presence. I'm sorry she's had this condition, but it doesn't excuse her music. It doesn't make her music listenable suddenly, the fact that she's had this terrible affliction.
But that seems to be what everybody's take is, though, isn't it? It's, marvellous. The
She's
singer
back.
that we all couldn't stand is back again. Yeah.
Yeah, but then, so on the one hand, that's annoying, and then on the other hand, all the religious people have been offended by this Last Supper parody. And I love the idea that the organisers are saying, we would never disrespect a religious group. We'd never do anything a little bit racy. Come on, we're in France. The closing ceremony, as far as I'm concerned, is just should well be, if it isn't already, just a mass orgy.
Oh, that would be just expected, wouldn't it? I mean, it's probably one of the requirements, is it, for all the athletes to have a mistress,
of course,
or a lover to be allowed to compete?
Because every single Olympics they hand out condoms, and that's always discussed hundreds of thousands of condoms. But I think the Paris Olympics is the first one where you're also given a mistress at the same time as you're given the condom.
This is great. I mean, my concern too is their love of strikes. I mean, it amazes me, really, that the judges and the venues haven't already gone on strike.
Yes, well, isn't it good to see 9 newspaper staff getting into the spirit with a strike on the eve of the games?
It's very French and very Parisian.
Tell me,
chômage. I think that's marvellous. And are the athletes also taking a 3-hour lunch break? Because I think that's a very French thing to do too.
Oh, it is. It is absolutely.
Sort of halfway through the 800-metre sprint, they go for lunch for 3 hours and come back.
Absolutely. And the lunch is paid for, I think, by the employer. That's the other thing. They give you a ticket that you can convert at the restaurant.
Bien
so
sûr,
it's fabulous.
Bien sûr. C'est formidable.
Yes, they lit the torch in the end. It all went ahead. But Andrew, the biggest shock and the biggest surprise, and the thing that I found strangest, was at the end of day 1 of competition. Do you know who was on top of the medal table?
Oh, I saw a headline. It was us, wasn't it?
It was.
Weren't we on top of it? But surely, I mean, I saw that headline and I thought, let me guess, the only event that has been held on day 1 is swimming. Am I right? Is that why?
It was the overwhelming reason. I think there might have been also a canoeing gold or some other. There was some cycling gold.
Another watery thing.
Yes,
and a cycling. Of course, we were ahead. I mean, it's the one thing that Australians can do is swim, because we have to swim away from so many hideous bloody animals.
Yes,
we have to swim away from crocodiles, box jellyfish. Of course, we're good swimmers.
That's right. It was Grace Brown, actually the cyclist, the women's road time trial. But I mean, cycling in dangerous conditions and extreme cycling. We have no sensible cycleways in Australia. Any Australian cyclist's going to go pretty well.
Well, yeah, no, that's right. They've built those sort of 2 centimetre wide bike lanes through some of our cities.
Yeah, it's been very good.
We have to practice on those. We've got the hardest conditions in the world.
Absolutely. So, look, well done to her, well done to the Aussies. I figured they should have just stopped the Olympics after day one.
Well, that would be my preference too. We could all move on. And
well, the closing ceremony.
Think about
that's
it.
never been done. Having the closing ceremony beginning right after the opening ceremony.
Yeah, right.
Brisbane could get on board with that.
Cancel the sport. Because the only interesting parts of it for me really are those 2 ceremonies. I'd like to see them back to back.
Yeah.
And with no games.
Yeah, well, that would be your preference, wouldn't it? Just to have the
surely
performing parts.
Can you buy them on a DVD? Is there a DVD of just the ceremonies and the sport taken out?
Well be. They could well be. So this is what's going on. Australia's not on top of the tally anymore. I think that's it. But it was good for a moment.
They did something else other than swimming, did they?
Yeah.
Is that the problem?
It's a shame.
That's the problem.
I don't know why we don't just as a nation ignore the Olympics and only focus on the Swimming World Championships. I can't. Wouldn't that be a happier time?
Yeah.
It's like the Rugby League World Cup. It's a competition where really we win by default. What a wonderful thing that is.
Yeah, it's really. Yeah. No, I'm with you. The Swim Olympics is an event we should have.
Well, we
do
the
well
chance.
at that. I reckon we do well at
Brisbane 2034. Cancel all the other events, or perhaps convert them to involve swimming. So your cycling race, sure, you're still cycling, but you're cycling through a pool, a swimming pool.
Yeah. And I'll just leave the cycle at the side of the pool, swim to the other end, and be given another bicycle.
That's right. The 100-metre sprint could involve floaties. I think
just swimming.
Yep.
Yes. Do it in a pool. I'd like to. Yep. The tennis.
The tennis would be very
in a pool. In a pool, we do much better with that.
A lot of these...
The boxing.
Well, it would be much more entertaining. I'd much rather watch judo in a pool or boxing in a pool than not in a pool.
Underwater judo would be superb.
Beach volleyball.
The Aussies. Well, we'd kill it.
Yeah.
The Aussies would absolutely kill it.
I think it would be brilliant.
Yes.
So that's a tip for the Brisbane Olympics. But, I mean, the last thing to mention, Andrew, we'll do your quiz about the past Olympics tomorrow, if you'd be so kind as to...
Yes, I think we should. Yes, look, I think we've we can't fit a quiz in.
No.
We'll do it tomorrow.
We'll do that tomorrow. Is the biggest story that broke as the games began is this coordinated attack on all the French railways. And so talking about strikes and so on, 4 or 5 of the country's high-speed rail lines were taken out by fires just before the start of the games. Deliberately lit.
Yeah. What were they thinking, do you think? Were they chefs? France is very keen on cooking. Were they sort of,
flambeing experiments?
Or
doing a progressive degustation where we had to go around each of the major rail stations.
Isn't it? Well, I don't know. I didn't read the details, but I did notice the story about that. Or was it something to do with the torch relay? Did that go hideously wrong?
No, it was a political protest. The great thing is that it really hasn't been reported what the point of it was. So I think that's a wonderful thing to do. It's just when you're covering a giant kind of act of protest like this, it's very inconvenient for everybody. Don't mention what the point is.
Well, that'll teach them, won't it? I mean, because that's what the protesters would like, isn't it?
Yeah, malicious sabotage apparently is what it was.
Yeah. Well, I think in most parts, not just France, most parts of Europe, they like to have a good protest.
They do.
They were out protesting, so we could have foreseen this, I feel.
Maybe they were protesting in favour of protesting, just to remind everybody.
Might have been protesting against the presence of Celine Dion. They might have heard that she was about to open her mouth and sing.
Oh, goodness. Well,
now, one last question for you, Dommy, though. Speaking of the news, what on earth was Snoop Dogg doing as part of the torch relay? I saw a news story saying that he was there carrying the torch. Are you across this?
I knew he was going there. There was talk of him being in the commentary team, I think, at one point. I'm not sure about that, but he was actually taking. He was seen. I'm just checking this. This is something I missed. I think he thought it was a giant bong. Is that what it was? Did he think it was? That sort of lit up, and Snoop's like, give me some of that.
Yeah, give me some of that shit.
Yeah, but
that does explain it.
He looks good.
I had wondered
in his
all
white.
Theory. He looks all right. I mean, the only theory I had read is that some NBC TV executives thought that Snoop Dogg would attract a younger audience.
Well,
so they hired a 97-year-old rapper to
he must be in his 50s. Surely he's in his 50s. He's the healthiest rapper going. No, I'm not sure, but I assume that You shouldn't really have commentators carrying the torch relay, should you? I mean, did we really want Bruce McAvaney kind of commentating himself as he brings the... Oh, it's a wonderful torch. I'm lighting it up now. Oh, it's just fabulous. The torchbearer doing a wonderful job.
No, I feel it's a conflict of interest. I do.
So how can you independently enthuse ridiculously about the torchbearer if you're the torchbearer? All right. Okay, well, I'm looking forward to your quiz, Andrew. Let's do that tomorrow, shall we?
Let's. All right. Olympic quizzing tomorrow. Tomorrow it's going to be it's a quiz about Olympic mishaps, the worst Olympic mishaps. We'll be testing your knowledge of stuff-ups and disasters through Olympic history.
And I just did one because by making the joke that Snoop was lighting up a giant blunt, I made the same joke as the Daily Mail. So,
Dommy.
Yeah, put me in the quiz for tomorrow, Andrew. I'll catch you then.
Ooh, see you then. That's disappointing.
Our Gears from Road, we're part of the Iconoclast Network. Catch you tomorrow.